Okay, demolding time. Let this thing sit out here for a few hours. It is probably cured well enough to be able to stand on its own. It's sat out here mostly all day and night. I'm going to demold the resin casting of the Vengeance bus. I don't have mold straps, I don't use them. This is pretty resilient, it can stand on its own. Let's take the first layer off. That right there. The back part can be tricky. I have to make sure this is firm enough and thick enough to, yep. Firm enough and thick enough that it will come right off the mold. Sometimes you have seal leaks in some of these where either the seam line or part of the mold doesn't want to come off. I know this is a little bit embarrassing. Sometimes you have a little leak somewhere in here that will grab on to the plaster part. And if it does, I don't want to break it. I don't want to break my mold either. Because this is urethane, ultracal. I really should be using lighter molds, but like I said, until I can get this remolded, I don't really have an option for that at the moment. This is a plaster and ultracal mold, which, like I said, there's some leaks sometimes on these things. I want to be very careful to not, and see, it was just a small leak at the top right here, and just a little piece, right there. That leak was enough to cause suction to where it would hang on to the mold and try to keep me from getting it. Now the whole thing is a one-piece Vengeance casting, done from the latex mold that I made for the mask. Now I just basically take it and go down the back of the form and peel it apart right here along the key line. Peel it all the way. Right there. And just peel that off. Then when I get down here to the parts like the neck and the ears and that type of thing, you have to be a little bit careful. See, I use a more resilient resin that doesn't collapse, because when I first started doing these, I took somebody's advice on a cheap brand of resin, did that, made a couple of castings, and set them back over here before all these were out there. And it turned out that it wasn't cured all the way, even though it sat for about a whole day. And, son of a gun. Okay. We'll peel this and hold it right here. All the detail that I have in the mask transferred. That's why I make silicone molds of every sculpting I do. It's a thick, heavy mold from silicone. It's a brush on. I've got about an inch, quarter inch, half inch key right up the back because I was having problems with it being too thin in spots. And so here you have your one-piece resin Vengeance sculpt. Now all I have to do is go along here while this is still soft and pliable and break off the flashings. Dremel that down. Then do a base coat. And it's ready to paint up. It's ready to go. Break off the flashings here. Very easy, very durable, very lightweight. And this is a pretty much resilient, although the next batch of resin I'm going to get a 57D. 57D being that I can do hollow castings, I can drop them. You know, they're durable, they bounce, you know, that type of thing. So, all the details have come out perfectly in this. Same as the latex mask, it's just a resin bust for display. Paint up, put a hockey mask on it, and away you go. I've thought to do a lot of my sculptings in silicone for the fact that I can take that very same mold right there if I want to take this sculpting and change the details. Let's say I want to add damages or I want to reshape the face or something. I can actually take that, put it in the form, melt down monster clay, pour it in there, do a clay pour, and recreate this entire sculpting to work from in clay without having to resculpt the whole thing. And that was given, a tip that was given to me by a former Hollywood professional who retired from the industry and made the suggestion of me doing that because, you know, I might as well learn, you know, some tips and stuff from them, but I didn't have to go to the Savini school or anything like that to learn how to do that. Those are a little bit of a cheat tips, if you will, on how to preserve your work in case you want to go back in, modify it, change it, retool it, what have you. And, you know, I've kind of spoken out in the public about, you know, doing that, but because I was such a newbie at it, some people kind of took offense to it and said, oh, you don't do that, nobody does that. I kind of skipped all the, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, you know, learning like most of the people did, and just kind of went to some of the people that were more professional, picked their brains and said, what's the best and easiest way to do something like this? And it's pretty much, that's why this shop has so much molds and forms and stuff in it, because if I go back in and I change an idea, I will make a brand new mold of that idea. Let's say I take this and I'm, you know, modify it, make it damages or what have you or whatever. I will then turn around and have to remold that to preserve that part. And then that way when I cast those up, you know, those details are saved. You know, the clay itself gets destroyed and it's repurposed all the time. But this is primarily the reason why. And as a matter of fact, today on one of the forums, somebody asked, you know, I painted this, I made the sculpting, and, you know, I want to retool it, but I don't know how. Everybody went behind him. I didn't say anything publicly, but everybody went behind him and said, oh, here's what you do. Make a silicone sleeve, then do clay pours and stuff. Yep, for some reason or other, you know, I make that suggestion and people are like, oh, no, you don't know what you're doing. Nobody does that. And then they come out and they tell the guy, this is what you do. And it's exactly what I've been saying a while back. So I don't understand that whole thing at all, because when I give tips and stuff like that, it's stuff that I've learned from people, and I really won't say anything publicly much anymore, because every time you do and you get on social media and you say something, people are like, oh, what do you know? I know better than you, and all that. And it just becomes a barrage of negativity and all that stuff. So I just say I'm going to, personal message you and walk you through it and that type of thing. So anyway, flashing, I just do a little Dremel. Work on this right now. But there you go. One solid piece ready to go for painting. Of course, got to get in here and get these little dribble bits out. But that's it. It's done. That's resin casting right there. Resin casting 101. And it's lightweight and durable. Display pieces. It's a little top heavy in the head, because I wanted to make sure that the form would sit on the table by itself like this. Like I said, that's why I did the video where I did the brush up on the inside, because of the way it's got to sit. Now it will not collapse. Just sits there all by itself. Boom. There you go. Now all I got to do is just do a little Dremel work, flashing, and paint up, and it's ready to go.